It's not ideal to be cut open.
You just moving back and forth like this. You like, what's going on down there?
Postpartum anxiety came and backhanded me, and I was like, whoa.
Take a day by day.
I love motherhood.
How your life just gets altered like that.
We gonna get this baby out of here.
But you have to create and cultivate your village. You have to create and cultivate your social media.
Trying to be clear, I'm not doing this no more.
Like that, I would want to do things with them, and just be among them.
Welcome to another episode of Autonomous Birth. I couldn't remember. It was okay. That was crazy. All right.
I was gonna hold it in, but
I know. I'm silly sometimes. All right. Let's try that again. Welcome to another episode of Autonomous Birth. Today I am joined by Joy. We met at the Mama's Recovery Circle last week, which feels like a lifetime ago. And number one, she's amazing. Well, I've known you for all of a week, but I was like really shy, and Joy was like, come on, come still do this. So I really do appreciate you for that. And I know you're like, girls, it's not that deep, but I was very nervous. So I did really appreciate you for that. So if you could introduce yourself, a little bit about how many kids you have, their ages, and then a fun fact about yourself outside of motherhood.
okay. Well, I'm Joy. I am 34. I be forgetting after 30. I just lose track. I have 3 kids. They are 6, 4, and 1. And a fun fact about me, we just chatted about, is I like to play video games, or at least I used to before I became a mom and I didn't have time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really good. Call of Duty.
We're gonna get you back to it though. Like a goal of once a week. I know I can't talk, but it's just a nice little escape sometimes.
Yes.
So we're gonna start with your first child. If you could tell me how you felt when you learned you were pregnant.
How did I feel? Ooh, that's back. I was excited. It was definitely like planned, and we were like ready.
Mm-hmm.
But also like you've never experienced this before, and like then I realized like no one ever talks about this, or no one ever like prepares you for this. Like really. So I was definitely nervous. For sure, but excited. Yeah.
And the pregnancy, did it go how you envisioned it to go?
It did. Well, actually, I envisioned that it was going to be a lot worse than it actually turned out to be. So I'm a nerd, and I'm also like an anxious person, very anxious person.
Mm-hmm.
So once I realized I didn't know anything, I like started pouring myself into like books and like research and getting a little bit over the edge. And so it went better than I thought, but I think I put in a lot of work for it to go that way. One, like kind of educating myself. And once I started to educate myself, then I was like, ooh, there's a lot of disparities in outcomes here. So then I had to learn how to like turn off the negative stories, etc. So I think putting in the work to like do the research and also like keep myself physically fit, like intentionally all the way up to the end, I think helped. Maybe I like to think that helped make it go pretty easy.
Okay. And so, did you have? I know you said it was easier than you anticipated, but did you have like any symptoms during your
I
pregnancy?
had the symptoms that. What is the app that everybody uses? The baby. Anyway, the little apps where you track
What
your
to expect?
pregnancy.
Is it what to expect?
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's like, oh, this week your baby's a cabbage, and this is what you might be experiencing.
Yes.
So I had basically like all of those things that you would expect, the earlier on, like the nausea and the like heightened sense of smell and like those sort of inconveniences, being really tired.
Yes.
Like I had all of those things, and it was a lot because I was working full time, and I was also in grad school full time.
Oh, wow.
And I was in like the first year of marriage. Also, that's a lot of work that first year. So I say it went well, but now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, it was okay, but it had its challenges for sure.
Of course. And so, what did your pregnancy teach you? The first pregnancy teach you about yourself and others in your life?
I definitely think it taught me a lot about myself in terms of like just sort of verifying my personality. Um, and I think resilience is the word that comes to mind. I think when you're an anxious person like me and then you pour yourself into all this research, and by the way, my background is public health. Um, so I know like very intimately this sort of area of healthcare research. I think it took a lot of resilience and like really convincing myself that the narrative that's like so out there in your face about like outcomes for Black moms, like that was not going to be me. And I was not going to like allow that to make me afraid of like the experience, I guess, even if that was my outcome, like I wasn't going to live in that fear through pregnancy and birth. So I think it taught me a lot about my ability to be like resilient and focused and like committed to this like end goal of having this birth experience that I wanted to have.
Okay. And so, what did it look like? But you mentioned like ensuring that you didn't have that type of birth. What did that look like for you? Like, what measures did you take to be proactive?
Yeah, so I did a lot of reading, and I did a lot of keeping myself in shape, like watching my diet, working out consistently. I did a lot of yoga, Pilates, running, walking, um, and just educating myself around like what should I eat, what shouldn't I eat, what kind of what kind of medications can I take, what kind of medications can I not take. I researched doctors and I found a Black woman doctor and I like went and I met with these doctors and like you passed the vibe check and you were educated at a place where I was comfortable and you understood who I was as an individual in my community. You had to kind of check all those boxes, and I found someone that I really vibed very well with and I trusted. So I think that was also a part of that sort of preparation process as well.
I just want to say, prior to this call, we were talking about Joy being an athlete, and you said that was like so many years ago, but you just talked about like doing all this exercise while you were pregnant. So
That's not playing basketball, though.
No, it's not. But
But
I
yes,
feel like
yeah, I think
it
it's a
still
little
shows
helpful.
up in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like I feel like that kind of kicks back in where like okay, you kind of like training. It's like training, right? Like at least that's the way I look at it. Okay, you're pregnant. The next 8 months or 9 months is training. There's physical training and there's like mental training, and that's the way that I looked at that 8 or 9 months.
Yeah. And this is a fun question that I recently got it. What was the wildest thing you cried about when you were pregnant? Any of the pregnancies?
Wildest thing I cried about? Okay, I'm not a crier.
Okay.
I'm not a crier. I don't want to say I'm cold. I'm not cold.
That doesn't make you
I'm
cold.
not a crier. Like, I'm not really a crier. I'm more like I might have yelled or been a little angry at my husband about something stupid, like wanting to eat sushi and I couldn't, like, I don't know. Yeah. It was probably about food would be my guess.
I believe it. Okay.
It was probably about food. Yeah.
And so what was your favorite part of your pregnancy and what was the biggest shock for you?
So for my first pregnancy, I think my favorite part was just like the newness of it. Like just the newness of like, oh, I'm growing. Like there's like the person in there. Like it was just all new and it's very interesting. And like that, the whole thing was very fascinating because again, like you don't really learn too deep much about this subject, in school or anything like that. So I think that was the exciting part. Like, looking at the little app and seeing how much, they're growing and what they can do now. And if they can hear me, they can see if I put a flashlight in front of my belly. Like, I think those things were like really exciting.
Okay. And so you mentioned interviewing the doctors. How do I ask that? So I guess my question is so much is, were you not like the doctor that you had prior to being pregnant? Did she not pass the vibe check?
No. No.
Understand?
No. Mm-mm. Didn't pass. Not for this. Not for this level of, health condition, I guess you would call it. Was not passing. I really didn't have. I mean, before becoming a mom, it's more like you go for your annual checkup and that's it. Like, it's not much thought put into OB for me. Not my primary care, yes, but for your gynecologist, I didn't really care about that until I needed to care about it. Yeah.
And did you have a doula with your?
So with my first, I did not have a doula. I had a doula with my second, but I did not with my first. And my third, we had a midwife with my third. Yeah.
All right.
I wish I had a doula though. I needed one with my first. Yeah.
I was about to say tell me why, but I also was about to say tell me your birth story. So you'll probably tell me the why in the birth story. So if you could tell me your birth story.
Yeah. I guess I'll just. I mean, I have three of them, but so I wish I had a doula. The reason why I say that is because I took a birthing class, the class that you take, and they tell you these are all the phases, and this is how you time your contractions, and this is what's going to happen, or whatever. Okay, well, in practice, when the ish is going down, I don't know how much of that you really remember or is as like specifically relevant in those moments when you need them. I found out with my first labor that I have very fast labors and births, and I was not expecting that. And all I remember is them telling me to stay at home for as long as you can. Don't rush to the hospital. Time your contractions, and when they get to a certain number, then you go ahead and go in. But they had no asterisks around people like me. So it was a poop show. Yeah. So things escalated very quickly. I went from like no contractions to I went from 0 to 100 very quickly. And I think if I had had a doula there with me at home during that process, it wouldn't have been as much of a chaotic experience for me. So because my contractions came so quickly and everything happened so quickly, we had to call 911 to get me to the hospital because there was no way my husband was going to get me there. So that was how the first one went.
Did you make it to the hospital?
Barely. So my husband was on the phone and they were telling him what to do because the baby was coming. And I thought we were going to have this at home. The towels were out. He was talking. I was like, oh no, you're not driving me. There's no way I'm getting in the car with you. The baby is like literally halfway out. But I was able to get to the hospital and I was there for maybe like 7 minutes before the baby came. So
that's great.
Yes,
you made
it. I made it, but it was not a great ride there to get to the hospital. And when I got there, I felt the baby's head. The baby's head was coming out. And they took me to the ER instead of up to labor and delivery. And a woman was not very kind to me. And she was like, ma'am, you need to stop pushing. And I'm like, no, my body's telling me to push and there's a baby coming. And so I had to deal with her. And then she checked me and she was like, oh, my bad. Go up there. So then we got up to the labor and delivery, and they were like talking to my husband. They were like, "Sir, you need to fill out these forms." And I'm literally pushing the baby out on a stretcher. And my husband finally like flips out. He's like, "I'm not filling out no forms. We need to go in the back now."
Yeah.
They rolled me in, and I had the baby like within a minute of going into the room. My clothes still on. It was not the experience that I had prepared to have, you know. I
Mhm.
didn't get that experience at all. So if I had a doula there, I think that would have made a big difference, which is what we did the second time around, and that it did make a big difference for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
How could they not sense the urgency?
it
That's
was
literally what y'all
crazy. It
do.
was really crazy, and I was like, why are you doing this to me? Like there's literally why do you need to check anything? Like you could see me, I
Mhm.
feel the baby, so I know you can see the baby. So what do you need to do? What do you need to do? So that was the last time that I went the hospital route
Mhm.
to have my baby, because that was insane to me. And it was insane that we had called them and they were like, "No, you're not ready yet." And we had called them
That's what your doctor
twice.
said.
Yeah, the doctor on call,
Mhm.
which didn't end up
I
being the
got
black
you.
woman doctor
Not
that
the
I
vibe
had,
check. Yeah.
not the vibe check doctor.
Okay.
So I was like, if they had
That's where
told us
things
to
get
leave
tricky.
before, you know, we probably would have been
Mm.
okay. But so it definitely was a learning process from the first to the second, and then from the second
Mhm.
to the third. For sure, I changed things up a lot.
And so, with the first, what was that first month of postpartum like?
The first month was it was a learning curve too. Yeah, you know, I wasn't like new to babies, but I don't know if I said I'm a nerd. I'm kind of an introvert, and I like my space.
Mhm.
So like I give my parents church hugs. I'm not
We
a
might be the
touchy
same person.
like
My mother's gonna listen to this and be like,
like so, you know, even though it's my child, it's still like
"It's a lot."
it's like dang.
Like,
And then I
yes.
was breastfeeding, so like that's really personal. So
Yes.
it was definitely like an adjustment. Um especially with the breastfeeding aspect. I mean, how much more personal can you get? Like how much more in your space
Mhm.
like can you get? So that was um that was a little bit challenging for me. And my husband was really supportive, especially around the breastfeeding. But outside of that, I don't think a lot of people in my circle, in my community or family, they
Mhm.
have not breastfed. So there was a lot of challenges around like staying the course, because breastfeeding is really hard, right? So I kind of had to shut people out, because people are like, "Oh, well, if you complain, they're like, oh, well, you could just give them formula. You know, you
Yeah.
turned out fine. You had formula. Or you could just do this, or you could just do that. Or why don't you just pump, you know, in the first week so the baby can, so you could sleep."
Mhm.
And I knew based on my research, we shouldn't do that. Or why don't you give the baby a pacifier? Based on my research, we
Yep.
shouldn't do
And
that.
that's what's going on.
So it was a little hard. I kind of had to isolate myself, because the comments were well meaning, but they were just not helpful in that state when you're trying to like
Mhm.
do what you know is probably going to be the most helpful for you, for me, and what my goals were.
Mhm.
So it was a little lonely, but my husband was a big advocate, and I think he did a pretty good job at kind of trying to shield those like comments and or like particular people and things like that. That
Mhm.
was hard for me.
Yeah. Um. And did you experience like any depression or anxiety, rage, all the PP, postpartum things that can occur?
Okay, so
Apparently, there's a postpartum OCD too.
I'm so glad I didn't get that, girl, because I know I was high risk. So there's this thing, I forgot what it's called now. I think it's dysphoric ejection syndrome or something like that. So I didn't have postpartum depression, but I had a condition which I can't remember the name of, but essentially when you let down when breastfeeding, you get this like immediate sense of dread and depression, like in the moments. And I did not know what it was. And breastfeeding had been going so well until he would latch and I would let down and I would feel like I want to cry. Like I would feel just horrible. And I no research had told me about that. So I was like,
Right.
what's this? So I had to start looking into like, what is this? Is this like just me? Is this like a thing? And so finally I found this professor, I think she was at North Carolina. And I found out it was like a condition. And I reached out to that professor and she was able to give me some like advice and things like that. And eventually that condition like went away like she said it would. But she was able to give me like some coping sort of mechanisms until that happened. But I did have that, and that was really hard because breastfeeding was already hard anyway. And then to like in the moment when you're breastfeeding, when you let down, to like have this sense of like dread was like really, really hard. So I did experience that, and luckily it lasted for like a couple of weeks, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, and then it went away. But outside of that, I think for the most part, I managed okay. Um, I think a lot of that had to do with me deciding to like not go back to work. I think that was one less thing that I had on my plate. That came with its own struggles though. But I think in a way that was a little bit helpful to not be like, okay, I'm juggling this and I'm going back to work now, type of thing.
Before having the baby, did you already decide you weren't going back to work?
No, I was going back to work. I was going back to work.
Change my mind.
I love my job. I love the team. Like I had just opened a new senior living facility, so I work with like older adults and like senior living operations at that time. And I was like so excited, and I was like, okay, y'all, like I'll be back. And then we had never really looked up childcare or anything like that. So on my leave, I'm like, okay, well, let's get this childcare thing together. And as I'm looking at childcare and visiting, childcare centers, I'm like, I ain't putting my child over here. And the ones that I did like was like so expensive. And I was like, wait a minute now. At the time, it didn't make sense for me to go back to work because I would have been almost like going to work and paying the majority of my income to a childcare center to take care of my child. So I was like, you know what? I just decided to stay home. It was a hard choice. I called my boss actually, because we had a good relationship, and I went in to my job and I sat down in her office and talked to her about it. And she told me, she was like, you can always get your job. Like you can always get a job, and I will always hire you. But you do not get back the years and the time. So if you can afford to stay home, I don't want to lose you, but that time you will never get back. You can always come back to work. And that like stuck with me. And I was like, that's so true. Like that is so true. I can always go back to work, but if I don't do this now, I'm not going to get to rewind time and like do this again. So that's how I decided to stay at home.
She sounds like a great boss.
She is great. Yeah.
Did you return to work at all during your breastfeeding with the first child?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And what did what did that look like?
Yeah. Luckily we were like, was it like a year? I had just passed the year mark. So it was like winding down. It's not like that's his main source of food, but I was still breastfeeding. It was terrible. I was like, you know what? This is why people don't do it. That's why people don't do it.
Yeah.
Because I went back to school. When I took a break, I went to grad school. And I did an internship. I'm not gonna put people on blast, but at a major healthcare organization.
Tell me after.
And at this major healthcare organization, as well as the one that I actually got a job for after the internship, the lactation support, the accommodations were not accommodating. It
Mm-hmm.
was not good. Um, like trying to breastfeed in a supply closet, like ending up
Yeah.
breast ending up pumping in my car in a parking lot, like ending up pumping in my car on the street in Baltimore. Like these are the type of things that I was having to figure out how to do because people were just like, "Oh yeah, here's a space."
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like the space had to be luxury, but it wasn't clean, it wasn't private, right? So like what am I supposed to do? And you're just going back to work, so you're like, I don't want to be the squeaky wheel here. But eventually I did start to be the squeaky wheel because I started seeing other moms
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the same thing, and they weren't 1 year in. They were coming back to work 8 weeks, and I'm like, they need this.
Yeah.
you know so it was not great, and I definitely learned, like, I had advantages by staying at home and
Mm-hmm.
not going back to work. um and that's when I really started getting into, like, the places where I was working, finding out who's in charge of this, and let me educate you on, like, the things you need to be educated on, because these
Yeah.
accommodations are not acceptable and they're not helpful to moms when they're coming back to work. So that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said something though,
Yes, that was a whole
because
thing. It continues to be a whole thing. And the fact that it was healthcare organizations was like even more like, what?
you should know better.
This is ridiculous. Yeah.
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 And dang it. Oh, I was gonna say, you said like something about like I can't remember, but I feel like they tell you breastfeed for as long as possible, but I don't want to say society, but workplace doesn't make it easy at all. And it's like we're gonna give you 12 weeks to leave. My baby still need me every 2 hours if I'm breastfeeding them, and then you don't give good accommodations. So
Hmm.
things like
Yeah.
that. It's
Then you
hard.
feel like, I think I was having to stop every like 3 hours to pump when I first went
Mm-hmm.
back. And, I don't think anybody was judging me, but you have that thought, like, you're going back to work, you're trying to get back in, you're trying to make sure that, like, you haven't, you're not, what you call it? You're not dropping the load, and making other people work more and stuff like that. So this is all on your mind, right? You're trying to
Mm-hmm.
get back into the groove of things. You want to prove that this does not change who I am and my performance by me
Right.
being a mom. Um, so it's definitely a psychological thing too, as well, when you're going back to work and you're having, okay, I need to block my calendar off. Or why is your calendar blocked? Well, can I schedule a meeting with you during
Mm-hmm.
this time? Then I started saying yes. Then I'm sitting at work and my breasts are full and I'm like in pain because I haven't pumped, because people want to
Yeah.
put meetings on my calendar. So it was definitely a learning process for me. And I had to find my voice to be like, no, I
Mm-hmm.
need these times blocked off, and you can meet with me around this schedule, and I'll extend my day on the back end if I need to extend my day on the back end. So eventually I figured out how to make it work, but it was definitely a process.
And was it hard for you to like when it came to support from either your partner or your family? Was it hard for you to verbalize what kind of support you needed during that time?
Um, yeah, I think so. Yeah. Particularly around breastfeeding, I think no one had breastfed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a foreign thing to them. And especially once I got to, I would say, like 6 months, then it was almost like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing it? It was like almost like I'm not supposed to be
Yeah.
breastfeeding. And I'm like, actually, my research says,
She's been doing
um,
this for at least maybe around 2 years actually. But
thank you. And then they, I'm telling you, like when my son got teeth, they were like, well, why are you breastfeeding when they got teeth?
mm-hmm.
Or like when they started walking, Like, what are you doing? Like, they're walking. Why are you breastfeeding
Yeah.
and they're walking? It was very, but you know what? I poured myself into reading, like you said, and I really learned about the history behind that. And I mean, going all the way back to slavery. That's where this goes back to. And we have not had an opportunity to take care of our children because we had to take care of other people's children.
Mhm.
And learning about wet nurses and things like that, and eventually I realized it was just out of ignorance. There wasn't malice or ill intent, but you know, other people just didn't have the opportunity to breastfeed, and so you don't know what you don't know, and
Right.
you birth in hospital unless somebody's there telling you or educating you. The first thing they do is hand you some formula. Um, so I don't know what your question was, but but it was
I remember.
yeah, it was hard to like block the comments and stuff. It was like really hard for me because it was
Mhm.
people that were close to me. Um and it was no ill intent, but they just did not understand how difficult it was already to like stay the course and like get
Right.
through all of the challenges that come with breastfeeding, and it just was not helpful like at all.
Mhm.
um I didn't have the energy to educate. When you're in it, you're just like, no, I can't do that right now. Yeah.
And so, how did your relationship with your partner or your husband evolve from your first pregnancy, after your first pregnancy, birth? I'm sorry.
um First of all, I think my husband messed up the timing of the contractions. So it's kind of like low key his fault.
You ain't gonna live that down, apparently. That was years ago.
It's kind of low key his fault that like the whole situation happened first.
Okay.
But anyway, he no, he did his best. He did his best. I think, it's with your first, like it's both of y'all's first. So like it's a
Mhm.
learning process, and I think inherently like men are better at certain things than women are. Um, Generally speaking, that's not for everyone, but I think we definitely grew a lot closer and had to learn like who was stronger at this task and how to
Mhm.
split things up. And that has become more and more important, like the more kids we've had and the more things we need to do. I think it was really great for our relationship. It was definitely hard the first year with breastfeeding, and then like when you go from working to staying at home, that's a whole thing in and of itself. Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
you're losing your identity. You're like, what am I doing every day? So there's definitely like some learning there, but a lot of growth for sure.
I was going to ask you about that because you sound like, which is not, you sound like you enjoy working. And I know, like, sometimes having to stay home, like you said, it can be an adjustment. How long did it take you to adjust? And, like, how did you make that adjustment?
Um, it took me a while to adjust. um, I think the biggest thing was like uh, being not being afraid to like go out, like not being in the house every day. And I wish I had known that earlier. Then I would say maybe like I started going out like around 5 months or so. Like I didn't realize that when they're really really small, that's actually very easy to take them out.
Yeah.
Like,
Because they
not
just
when
lay
they
in that car
start
seat,
moving
stroller.
around, crawling and walking. No, like you travel
Mhm.
when they can only just sit there in the little carrier and they can't do anything.
Mhm.
Um, so I definitely wish I had known that. But my husband, he kind of peeps like, okay, how about you like go find a mom group, or like there's these programs at the library that you can go
Mhm.
to and take him and then go for a walk. And I think he had a lot of hand in like realizing, okay, you are here every day. Like, what can we do to like get you out of the house? And eventually I went back to my job, and I was
Mhm.
like, y'all need help. I'll work on like the weekends, you know. So my boss was like, yeah. So I ended up like working like 2 Saturdays in the month for like 4 hours or something, just to like get out of the house and like,
Mhm.
do something else. So eventually I did learn that okay, I need to do other things for my own sanity, and also
Yeah.
which helps everybody else in the house too. But it definitely took me a good like 4 or 5 months or so before I realized, okay, I can't just be doing this every day inside the house.
Okay. So can you tell me your second birth story?
Yeah, so my second is Jordan. She's my fiery princess. Fiery princess. Um that pregnancy went great. I worked up all the way through. The only thing it was really challenging because during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So again, my background is public health. I studied epidemiology. Girl, I was drawing charts. Where did you go and who did you talk to? How many people was there? How many days
Mm-hmm.
have it been since you took your COVID test? Take two. Wear your mask when you want your... I was on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little stressful because that was isolating.
It
It was
was.
very isolating. I did not want to get COVID. There was no vaccine at the time. There was limited information at the time. So I felt like, oh, this is the second time around, and now I know more. I think it would be better. But then COVID happened, so I was just like stuck again and isolated um,
Mm-hmm.
to my home. So that was definitely challenging, but overall, things went well. I didn't have any. Pregnancy was uneventful. I was just on 100. If you ask my
Mm-hmm.
family and friends about COVID, I was one. They was like, you can't go.
Rightfully
You
so,
can't
though.
go to that party when you come home for Thanksgiving because you're not gonna be able to go see Joy. so, so my poor brother-in-law, he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna do that. Is that okay?" He would call me, and I was like, "No, that's not okay. Can you do that like a couple days before and then take your test and
Mm-hmm.
then?" So I was just like really crazy about that during
But
COVID.
it wasn't crazy though. My nephew will not let me forget. He'd be like, "Do you remember when you made us wear masks to meet Ramel?" I'm like, "Yes, I do," and I would do it again because
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on.
Masks were
Like
not optional. Was not
I didn't have
optional.
a chart, and yes, Ramel, you heard me say your name. I wasn't calling you, baby. Don't get in this camera. Go downstairs. Thanks. I love you.
It
It was scary, and I now that
was.
you
You
like
didn't know what
you
to
saying it,
expect.
yeah, like I had him at the beginning of COVID. I wasn't pregnant in COVID, but like I never thought about how that impacted so many people's like motherhood journeys
Mm-hmm.
because it was madness. You didn't know, and some people took it seriously while others were just like
Some
at
people did not,
parties.
girl. I was so pissed at people that didn't take it seriously.
Mhm.
Like I was like, you don't care about other people. You're selfish.
Yes,
You selfish people. And that was me. Definitely, that was me.
I'm sure you had a
So,
chart. You know the meme of the guy pointing at the
yes,
board.
yes,
Oh, that was you in COVID.
that was me. I was so serious about COVID, girl, for real. People were just like, Joy's crazy. I'm sure they didn't say it to my face, but I know that they said
They
it.
could say what they want. You and your house was healthy.
They can say what they want. I ain't never get it while I was pregnant though, because I have my charts.
um,
So anyway,
so
I made it through the
y'all made it. Was your husband able to go to the appointments with you? Or did
um
you have appointments? Because I know you said you didn't have a baby in the
so
hospital.
we switched our OB. I started with the same one because I really
Mm-hmm.
liked her. And I was like, maybe this time things will be different. And at third, so we switched our OB, we got a doula because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Marcus, that's my husband. You failed. Because you didn't time the contractions
You
right.
failed the
And
vibe check.
you didn't, we need help. So
Mm-hmm.
we got a doula. She was amazing. Her name's Shannon. And we stayed with our OB. So I was like, if I get a doula, I'm gonna stay with my OB and I have a doula. So that will sort of offset any
Mm-hmm.
issues. And my doula was like, why are you birthing in the hospital? Have you thought about other options? And me being the healthcare person I am, I was too worried to do any other
Mm-hmm.
options. So I was like, no, let me go to the hospital just in case, just in case I need something. I didn't want any intervention, but just in case.
Mm-hmm.
So at 30 weeks, my GYN, I go to an appointment, and she's like, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I'm leaving
Oh.
the practice. And I'm like, what? You know, like, what?
Mm-hmm.
So that sucked. And my doula was like, don't even worry about it. I think you should do a home birth, or you should do like a birthing center. So we switched to GW, midwifery.
Mm-hmm.
That was the solution I came up with. That was a midwife, but you still birth in a hospital setting, but you're under midwifery
Mm-hmm.
care. So that kind of gave me the peace of mind. If I need something, I'm in the right place. So we switched, and everything went fine. I was a little nervous, but I feel like I got up to speed really quickly with the midwives that were there. I found one particular midwife that I really vibed with, and the transition went well. The transition went well. Shout out to Nora. And the birth was a mess again.
Not the chuckle.
The birth was a mess again. I went into labor at home. Everything was great. I knew I was in labor, but like nothing was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like calling Shannon, and she was checking in. She was like, okay. And she was like, since you had a fast first birth, as soon as you have the first like contraction, you call me and we're going to go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to wait. We're not going to count. We're just going to go, because we don't know how quickly things are going to escalate. So I called her to check in. I'm kind of chilling, breathing. There's really no contractions. There's none. I didn't have any.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, Joy, I think you should leave. And I'm like, but I haven't had any contractions. Like, I'm just like chilling. I'm fine. And she's like, no, you're breathing in a certain way, and I think you should leave. And I was like, trying to argue with her. And she was like, no, I think you should go. She talked to my husband. My husband was like, all right, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I put my clothes on, we grabbed my son. My in-laws are going to meet us at GW. By the time I get to the car door, my contractions start and go from 0 to 100.
From like your home to the car door?
From my steps
Okay.
to the car door. And I'm like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the hell? Usually you at least have some time of ramping up. There was no ramp up time. And all of a sudden I'm like in full blown like contractions. And so we jumped in the car, and we're like very much speeding on 295. Mm-hmm. And we get into DC, and my water breaks, and I can feel the baby. And my son is in the back seat. He's like almost 2. He's laughing because he thinks it's funny. And I'm like, over the edge. He's laughing in the back seat and laughing.
Oh, God.
And we passed the Lincoln Memorial, and I'm just like, oh God. I'm trying not to have the baby. So I'm going against my body, which is like my big no-no. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to have the baby in the car. My husband's running red lights because we got to get there. We see a police officer, and we're like, oh, great, a police officer to help us get there faster. We beep, and the police officer does not pay any attention to us. I don't know what he's doing. And my husband just says, screw it. He runs a red light. He keeps running red lights until we get to GW. We pull up in the ambulance where the ambulance are supposed to park, and stop there. And they run out and help me. They put me in a little pink wheelchair, wheel me up into the elevator and into the room. The midwife meets me there, and she's like, okay, let's get you on the bed. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to have the baby right now. She's like, you want to have the baby right now? I'm like, yes, I'm going to have a baby right now. So my baby number 2 was born in a pink hospital wheelchair. That was number 2. It was traumatic.
You posted about that the other day. Did you post something about that?
Yes. She wears pink to school every day now. She's quite a diva.
You started it. with the pink wheelchair.
So number two, I feel like we failed again because it was just so like on the one hand, I'm like, thank you, Lord, because do I want a long labor? No.
Mm-mm.
But there's also a lot of trauma that comes with like this chaotic experience where like just things are rushed and you're trying to get to the hospital and you don't know what to do and you're trying not to have a baby in the car and your kid is laughing at you and you're just like, oh my God, like it's scary. It's very scary. So that was the second time.
I want to know how Shannon knew. Like,
I don't know how she knew, but she knew. And unfortunately, because everything happened so fast, she didn't even get a chance to be at the birth. I literally had the baby in the wheelchair before they can like get me settled in the room. She got there like right after. But I think if Shannon had not told me to leave, we would have had our baby on Constitution Avenue in my CRV. Like
and I can't
that's where the
imagine
baby
trying
would
to
have
get to
been
a
born.
hospital in DC.
That's
The
where the
traffic
baby
is
would have been
always
born.
ridiculous.
It was like at 12 or 1 a.m. in the morning. So it was
Okay.
like not much people. I was like a Tuesday, which was great. That's how we got there so quickly. I think it was like 20 some minutes. But she knew.
I'm glad she
And
did.
I'm really glad that she told me to leave because I don't know what would have happened, honestly. Yeah.
So that's great. I thought you were gonna tell me like, so she told me to leave, and then I made it to the hospital.
No,
and then that's like,
nope. So, and then apparently, I mean, she had told me like, hey, if you have a fast first birth, usually the second time is faster. So I kind of was like, okay. So I was gonna leave when the contraction started, but I had no idea it would be like that. I mean, I was not expecting that at all. So I was expecting, oh, I'm gonna go to GW. They have this nice little birthing rooms, and I was gonna have music and like all these things that you see on TikTok and Instagram. And I was like, this is gonna be great. I didn't get that. I was very disappointed.
With your first child, what was the time from like first contraction to birth, if you remember?
So with the first, it was like first contraction, I would say maybe like 3 or 4 hours.
Okay.
And it was a ramp up. It was like a ramp up, With Jordan, with my second, it was like when I got to the car to when I got to DC. Yeah. Like it was probably a little less than 30 minutes.
That's amazing. All right.
Yeah. So it was just insane.
Yeah. And did those with her at least, did it affect you mentally afterwards? Because like you said, it could be traumatizing the way that it occurs.
I think that the most I was disappointed because I felt like I learned from the first time and I knew what to do this time. I had the doula. I switched to a midwifery practice. And I like did all the right things. And like still I was like, dang, I did everything I was supposed to do. And I still had the same traumatic, like not traumatic, but like I would say chaotic. It was just chaos. And like who wants to have a chaotic, experience? Yeah. And so I think I was more like just disappointed, but there was like I was like, what could I have done? Like could I have left any earlier? Like I don't know. So I think it was mostly like just disappointed that I had set up everything to go a certain way again, and it still didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. Yeah.
And so, what did it look like that first month coming home with a toddler and a newborn?
Okay, so yeah, the 1 to 2. People ask us a lot, is it harder going from 1 to 2 versus 2 to 3? The 1 to 2 is harder. The 2 to 3, you already in it.
Mhm.
Just add the next person. But the 1 to 2, that was hard because now you're not 2-on-1. You're
Mhm.
1-on-1. Um, and so that was a challenge. Luckily, my son is like the easiest going child, so he was pretty easygoing. It was just us getting used to like again like managing everything and who's doing what and like just staying on top of everything that needed to be done with having to um and I think my husband did a great job at like still being able to support me while taking on more than probably he had before with
Mhm.
being like the lead on my son because I have to be with the baby.
Yeah.
So it was definitely probably a learning curve for him having to do a little more. Um, but the 1 to 2 was definitely a big adjustment.
And what did your breastfeeding journey look like with your daughter?
With her, it was not as easy because she everything was going fine,
Mhm.
and then she got RSV at about 4 weeks old, and we ended up she ended up having to stay in the NICU for about a week,
Mhm.
and I could not breastfeed her because she had a feeding tube and like oxygen, and so I had to pump. And then when I was pumping, it led to like oversupply. So then when we finally were able to go home, it was kind of like a domino effect from the
Mhm.
RSV NICU stay that led to issues. Um, so I definitely lean on like lactation support
Mhm.
to help with those things. Um, Whereas I really didn't do much of that the first time around. So it was definitely more challenging starting with that and then going to work. Um, Going to work was a challenge. And I was still working from home because it was like during COVID. Um, but having to like pump, I never pumped really with my first kid, and I
Mhm.
hate pumping. Like
Mhm.
pumping is, I hate pumping. Um, and I had to, and that was really hard. And I didn't have a hospital grade pump at first, so I was trying to pump with like the LV wearable
Mhm.
and not realizing like that's not going to be sufficient. So
Right.
then my supply dropped, and then I realized I needed a hospital grade pump. So there was like one thing after the other for the second time around, but eventually I got into the flow of things. My goals changed. Like my first goal with my first kid, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it to a year. With my second, I was
Mhm.
like, let me just make it to 6 months. Let me make it to 6 months, and then I'm gonna see how it's going, and then I'm gonna set my next goal. But I
Mhm.
was able to get to like a year and a half, but it was a struggle to get to that year and a half. And
Mhm.
eventually, I think eventually it was kind of a mutual thing where like I was kind of ready and it seemed like she was kind of ready and it dissolved.
How did you? Because like it does sound like you had more challenges. How did you push through? Uh, like I can keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this.
um, I'm a stubborn person. I think that came in handy.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly. Like it was more
Mhm.
like it was spite. It was like I know what statistics say for black
Mhm.
women. It was a spite thing. It was a no, like I'm
Mhm.
going to do this, and that is it. That's just what I leaned on. Um that's it. I was just like,
Mhm.
no, this is not whatever I need to do, get lactation support or whatever. Um I'm going to do this. And I think this my stubborn nature was very helpful when it came to breastfeeding for sure.
I'm glad you self aware.
Yeah, so
Did you experience any postpartum depression and anxiety? All the things we said earlier.
um with my second, no, but it was definitely harder to I wouldn't say postpartum depression, but it was definitely harder to um, get back to myself. Like, like not snap back, but like feel strong again or have consistent time to work on myself. Like, get back walking, get back running, go back to yoga. Like, I don't know, do my hair, like do regular stuff for myself, self care things.
Yeah.
That took a lot longer to get to because now you have two. And now I'm working again. And so, yes, that was really hard. Um, it took a lot longer to like get back to being me and like working on me and like being in shape again and stuff like that. So at times I think there was, some sadness around like, who am I?
Yeah.
I don't know, like basic questions like who am I? Am I the same person that I was before? How have I changed? Is this who I am? Like, is this my baseline now? Is my memory ever coming back? Like, like
that is a valid question. Yeah.
It's not. Uh, mine is not. So
Yeah.
it was all of those things, emotions, like I definitely went through. I definitely went through all of those emotions, and it was harder to get back to like a good place the second time around because I feel like you just have even less time and opportunity to like really focus on that for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Last baby. Tell me about that birth. I'm so excited to hear.
Yeah, so my last baby, Madeline, she's a year and a half. Okay, so after the two very chaotic, precipitous labors, I was then now convinced that I need to have my child at home because this is not working out for me any other way. So that's what I did. Um, I could not find one single Black midwife
It's hard.
at all. My doula, Shannon, she might be technically a midwife right now, or still in the process, but she is working on becoming a midwife, but that wasn't going to help me at the time. I could not find any. And I thought I heard that there was like a birthing center in talks opening in Bowie or something. I don't know. But I couldn't find anybody. So Shannon gave me a referral for a practice, Mama's, who's based in Tacoma Park. And I went and I talked to them just to feel them out. They were not Black. At least the lead midwife was not Black. So I was like a little skeptical. Not that people that are not people of color can provide good care. That was just my preference. And I spoke to them and I heard from people who had birthed with them, and I was impressed. I was like, oh, this just kind of sounds too good to be true. And I had a neighbor who lived down the street who also birthed with them, and she's a Black woman, and she convinced me when she really was talking about the midwives and like how she was talking about them and the relationship that she had with them and how much she trusted them. That sold me. So I went for it because at this point, with two successful but unsuccessful hospital births, what choice do you have? So I went for that, and it was great. And I really wish I had did it with all three of my kids. The pregnancy was hard though. The first two, there were no issues. The last one, it was just rough. I was sick all the time with like upper respiratory infections, like all the time, like the whole time. It was awful. And it just took a lot out of me. It took a lot out of me, plus having two kids right at home as well. So it was really hard. But they were great. Like all of the appointments were the way that they did their midwifery care. I love the way they do it. They actually take moms in cohorts. based on the month that you birth. So there was myself and like 5 other moms. So we would do our appointments together. We would have a private part of the appointment, but then we would come together, and it was more about sharing and education and empowering us and educating us. So we developed like really close relationships with each other. We learned a lot about what to expect. We were very empowered, very like ready, physically and mentally ready. And it was just a really great experience. There was 2 other midwives in the practice. One of them was a person of color who I got really close to. And it's just so happened that the midwife that I had with my second baby at GW, she ended up coming on to this new practice. And I was like, it's a sign. It's a sign. So it was great. The birth was very fast again. But the difference was I mentally did not have to think about what am I going to do? Do I have my bag ready? When do I leave? How am I going to get there? None of that stuff was on my mind at all. And I think that was just such a relief for me that I didn't have to do anything but be at home. I had all my supplies they told me to buy. They had been to my home already. They were comfortable in my home. I didn't have to worry about anything. So my kids were there when we had the baby, which was also really cool. So they weren't in the room when I actually had the baby. They were downstairs. So they were able to come up and we were like, oh, there's a baby here now. So that was great. And I'm glad I did do the home birth because it was about 20 minutes after contractions.
So, okay, sorry. I'm worried about the X questions. I'm sorry. Proceed.
No, it was 20 minutes of contractions. And once contractions started, you have early labor where you're not really having contractions like that. That was probably about 2 hours. And I was just, in my room chilling, listening to music. The midwife, Luiselli, who I love, she was the one midwife of color there. She ended up being the person on call, which I was so happy about. She was there. There was 2 birth assistants who are student midwives that were also there, and there was my husband. My kids were downstairs with my mother-in-law playing, watch TV or whatever. And it was just so relaxing, like to be in my own room, in my own environment. I didn't have to go anywhere, do anything, but just be and relax. And that's exactly what I did. And yeah, that was my home birth experience. It was about 20 minutes and we had the baby and everything went great. Everything went great. She breastfed. We were very comfortable. We were in bed. They stayed for about 2 hours after and then they left and then we were just kind of there and I was like, oh, maybe we should have hired like a night nurse or something. But your third time around, you kind of know what to do. And yeah, I highly recommend like home births after that experience for sure.
Okay, I have follow-up questions. But that is, I also, the second one I had a home birth, and when they left, I was like, oh, it's just us. Because like in the hospital,
I didn't think about
people
that.
are
Yeah.
coming and, hoping with the baby, clean, give it a bath, all the things. And
Yes.
like, oh, well, it's just us. Okay.
Yes, girl. And I remember sitting in the chair. I remember after they left, it was like 2 a.m. or something. And I was just sitting with the baby and I fed the baby. And then I looked over and my husband was asleep, girl, in the bed. He was snoring. He was sleeping so good. And I was just looking at him like oh,
he just went through
I just
labor.
wanted to throw a diaper at his head because I just gave birth. You over there?
Right.
What you sleeping for?
And snoring. Sleeping real good.
Yes. So I think for like the third time around, like we was all right. But if you having a home birth for your first and you don't have like, your mom or like somebody that's staying, which we did not, I definitely suggest like somebody, a friend of your mom or hire like a doula or an overnight person for that first night, because that could be a lot if you're just like, oh, you're just there with this baby and it's your first time. Yeah.
So I know earlier in our conversation you mentioned like because Shannon suggested the home birth, your second pregnancy. He was like, well, with your background, you weren't sold on it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what am I saying? What sold you between the second and third? I know you met with the midwife, but like, what really did it for
I
you?
wasn't sold on it because I was worried about, like, I'm a person who goes through all the scenarios, and I was like, I didn't want something to go wrong, and especially with how fast things progressed with me the first time, and I wasn't near a hospital that I trusted. I live in PG, and I live right by one hospital in particular. I wasn't going there. It's not going there. And so I thought GW was a good middle of the road option because I would still have the midwife and that culture of care, right? But be in a place I needed to be if an emergency happened. I was already there. So I thought, okay, that's a good middle ground. But after the whole quick birth again and I couldn't get there in time, at that point I was like, I just don't want to do this chaos again. And now I've done it twice. I feel more confident in my body to do what it needs to do. And also I feel more confident that it's probably going to happen really fast again. So that's what changed it. I think not wanting the chaos again. Like, I did not want to have that again. And I also like trusted my body like way more by the third time around. So I think I was more comfortable, like, not being afraid of like if something were to go wrong. And we had those conversations with the midwives and had a plan in place, and they kind of really walked me through, okay, this is what we would do in this situation. And I was able to talk to another mom who did plan a home birth, and it didn't go exactly the way that she had hoped it to go. And she was, she shared her story with me in terms of like how everything went with her having to, transition to the hospital, and then how things went. So I think that also really helped me like to be comfortable with it as well.
Okay.
But I think the main thing was like, I did not want the chaos again. It was too much. And I just didn't want, like, everybody was like, oh, you're so lucky you have quick, you don't have to be in pain for a long time and things like that, which I'm really thankful for. But it's like it's not great to be in that moment where like you are out of control and you're trying to get somewhere to be safe, and things are progressing so quickly and you're like on your own. Like, my husband was the only person there with me essentially through the entire labor process the first two times. I was only with medical people right when I was having the baby. And that was like a scary thing. Like, he's great, but he didn't know what to do, if something went down. So yeah, I think not having the chaos was like a big thing for me. And the home birth definitely gave calm, relaxing vibes that I wish I had like all three times.
And so what does your postnatal care look like? The difference between the OBGYN and the midwife?
Yeah, less restrictions in general, pre and post. I think it was more focused on me as a person versus like, the check boxes of like what is medically necessary for them to do. It was more so me. So I had a lot more visits also after the baby with them. So they, came the night of, they were there, they came the next day, and then they came 2 days later, and then they came another like 2 or 3 visits afterwards. So it was a lot more care postpartum from them, as well as like not just the appointments, but they're available basically 24/7. So that's a big difference as well, like being able to ask questions, call, send, text them pictures and be like, what's this? Like, so I think the difference was just more of a personal connection to them through the relationships that we have built because we had so many interactions throughout the process. It was more personal. It was more personal and individualized in terms of like their plan for me postpartum.
Did you happen to stay in touch with any of the ladies in your cohort?
I did. Yeah, we stay in touch. We're friends and we like get our kids together. We got them together in the summer, which is really cute. So yeah, I think for us, we probably have relationships that we will always have. We have group chat, the dads and the moms. So it's like a thing that I think has bonded us because we were essentially like together for these like 9 months. And so yeah, it's really cool. And also, you know, I was able to like meet other Black moms in this cohort group, and I love that because like I feel like more home birthing moms should like share their stories because the fear is like real. It's the fear of the unknown because the hospital is the standard, like that's the norm of like what you're supposed to do. And you know, my family was worried. They were really worried about it. They were like, you know, are you sure? Is this going to be safe? Like, what happens? What's going to happen? You know, if you need care, they were worried for sure. But really, it's actually pretty safe. So I think we need
safer than the hospital sometimes.
We need more education, definitely, like around that, and we need more midwives of color.
I knew you were going to say that, and I completely agree.
And you know, unfortunately, my midwife that I love so much, Louiselli, left me, and she moved to like Chile or something. So I don't know what I'm gonna do now, but I do call her every now and then just to check is she coming back. But we definitely need more more midwives available, and we need midwifery care to be more accessible. Insurance was not very helpful.
I was about to ask you about that.
Like it was, you know, you pay up front, you know, out of pocket, and they gave us an option to like pay over a time period, like make payments over a time period, and then you can submit they give you paperwork at the end to submit to your insurance. Insurance did not cover a quarter of it. So everybody cannot afford that, and that's really unfortunate because especially populations that are particularly like at high risk or vulnerable to like adverse outcomes need this care to be accessible the most. So yeah, we need more Black midwives, and we need more innovative ways to make that type of care accessible to people that want to pursue that pathway.
Two things. What I don't understand is, at least for me, my home birth was way cheaper than the birth I had in the hospital. So I don't understand why insurance companies would not want to pay for it. That's number one. And number two, I feel like you're probably like, girl, no. After seeing your feature, like you just making changes in like public. I know you said that was your background, but like I feel like you would be great. I don't know what that process looks like, but just making change out there when it comes to like laws and maternal health.
Yes.
I'm
I would love to be in that space. I think that's something I'm really passionate about. And yes, it was cheaper. I remember I called the hospital because they sent me a bill for who was it? I don't remember which one it was, but they sent me a bill about some stuff they had did, and I was like, y'all ain't do nothing. I got there like 7 minutes later. I had the baby. Like, what did you do? Like, it was like you didn't put an IV in. You didn't give me no medicine. You didn't do literally anything but catch the baby. That's all you did. And I got this huge bill. I could not believe
pay attention to it.
I could not believe it. And I called and I tried to to fight it. And then eventually I just gave up and I was like, you know what, whatever. But I was like, you did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You literally did nothing. That also was another reason to home birth, because I was like, both times they did nothing, like literally nothing. So yeah, I don't understand why I don't understand why insurance can't cover more, at least, of the
Yeah.
cost, or like at least a doula, right? Like something,
They're
the doula wasn't
starting
free. Are they
the
starting to cover?
if you have Medicare, I know you can get covered there.
You mean
You know
Medicaid?
Dre. Yeah, I get the two mixed up. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
but you remember Dre, who was at the event, our doula.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know that she sometimes has clients through that.
That's great.
So
Yeah,
that's a step in
that
Maryland.
is a
I don't know
step.
if it's everywhere though, but I
Yeah,
know in Maryland for sure.
yeah,
But it just needs to be. It's literally healthcare. Like it would do so well, or not do so well. It would make so many more people have better outcomes.
mm-hmm.
And even if it's like not what the birth you envisioned, it still makes it easier on you, and it can make the process, like you even processing the birth, easier
Yeah,
because you know you did what you could, and like
yeah, definitely. I mean, what's there's nothing. I mean, there's only positives. Like even if you desire to birth in a hospital, to have a doula as
mm-hmm.
like your person that is your advocate, because many times you're in a practice with five other um, OBGYNs, and like me, maybe there's one that you really really have a good relationship with, but that person may not be on call when you go
Mm-hmm.
into labor. um, so having someone that is like a trusted person there in any setting, I feel like I just wish that everybody had that option available
Yeah.
to them, because I feel like it just makes such a big difference.
And okay, I feel like I'm taking so much of your time. we just been yapping. Um, what was the first month like after this baby? With all your babes.
Oh boy, yeah. It was definitely a lot to go to have to now that you have three kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I feel like, once you get to three, you kind of in the hang of things. You've done it twice. So we just got into the groove a lot faster
Mm-hmm.
um, than we did the first two times. I did the first two times. But, at three, for me, something had to give. So I went back to work, but I did transition to part time,
Mm-hmm.
because there was no way that I was gonna. The workload that I had before was already a struggle at two kids, and I just knew, like, if we have three, I don't know that I'm gonna work full time. At least not in this job. But I love my job because I don't want to leave my
Mm-hmm.
job. So luckily, they're really flexible, and I went back to work a little early and kind of stretched out my leave. But when I went back part time, and I've been part time ever since, which works for me. Um, but definitely, three is a lot, and I know people that do that have three that work, but I don't know anyone that has three that works that have three kids that are young like mine.
Mm-hmm.
I could not figure out how to be sane and keep up with everybody's needs,
Mm-hmm.
and have my same schedule that I had before. So I kind of was like, no, something has to give. So for me, I feel like things went smoother, but it came at a cost to me, to take
Mm-hmm.
a step back from my career. I mean, even though I'm still working, you take a step back to part time, you're not doing the same things you're doing before. You just can't be as involved in the same level. So um, it was definitely been a trade off, like taking a step back from your career to be able to be your best self for your family during
Mm-hmm.
this time period.
And what has this breastfeeding journey looked like?
Third time, pretty uneventful. Third time, pretty uneventful. The only thing was I was just so done
Mm-hmm.
because I've been breastfeeding like 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2024. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just been a lot. And when you're breastfeeding, everything kind of revolves around that. Like, you're making decisions during the day, like based
Mm-hmm.
on when I need to feed my child or when I need to pump. And if you're doing that for, on and off for 5 years, at some point, like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
So that was probably difficult. The difficult part was just being like, just tapped out from the whole thing, thinking about it, making my schedule revolve around it. So at a year, I was like, peace out. Like, I'm done.
Yeah. I know you mentioned earlier, not like I don't know if these were your words, but essentially you're not like an affectionate person. I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. I couldn't think of
Essentially,
any
you're
other
not
word.
an affectionate person. Yes.
You can correct my language.
No, it's okay. Oh, that's
Um,
hilarious.
So like with breastfeeding, how did you cope? Not cope, but like, did you get touched out often? Like, I need you to.
Girl,
I need space.
yes.
Okay.
Touched all the way out. Like,
Mhm.
ugh. Nobody talks about this.
Mm-mm.
Like, I am not a touchy-feely person. So, all day to be breastfeeding on and off, because I hate pumping. Like, I do not like being hooked up to a machine. And then also, like, then at the end of the night, you go to bed and your husband is like, what's up?
Nothing.
You're just like, bruh, like, don't
Yeah.
touch my boobs. Okay? Like, please. So,
Yes.
yes, definitely touched out for sure. Yeah. It was, and then you know how breastfeeding kids are. Did you breast? I think you did. You
I'm my
did breastfeed.
second. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
They just
attached
walk up to
still.
you. They'll just put their hand down your shirt, like in
Mhm.
public. They'll just pull up your shirt. You just like, what is going on here? It's too much. It's too
Yeah.
much. So it's you gotta laugh at it because comical.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely was touched out, and I had to be like, okay, when I come to bed, husband, give me like, like, give me this amount of time. These areas are currently touched out. Like,
Yeah.
it's serious because, oh my gosh, it's too much.
And I don't think they would ever understand. I mean, they, like they could try, but like
I don't think so. I don't think they could
you don't
understand.
understand
No.
if you've been through it.
Yes. So it's definitely a challenge.
Mhm.
It's definitely a challenge for sure. Especially, I think when you have that, I think it's a challenge for anybody, even if you're not like a personality like mine,
Mhm.
because like this is your personhood, like this is your body, and now you have
Mhm.
like this thing, that's like you are their food source, and like you can't go anywhere, like it's just insane. I've pumped in like the craziest places for the sake of breastfeeding. I'm just over it, to be honest with you.
But now you have to tell me. Now you have to tell me a crazy place, because I can imagine what you mean.
I mean, in my car,
Okay.
in a Uber, at a bar,
I've done it at a concert.
um, yes, all these
Mhm.
on the plane.
Yeah.
The poor man I was sitting beside. Luckily, I had the little wearable joint, so it's not like I had all these tubes hanging out. But he looked at me like,
My baby need this milk. Get out my face, sir.
at casino, like it's wherever you gotta go. I love
Yeah.
that. Like, I feel like from my first child to now, though, I feel like maybe it's just because I'm in it, but I feel like it is becoming more normalized, or at least more talked
Mm-hmm.
about and more accepted, which I love. Because with my first, it was like taboo. It was taboo. It was like, where can I hide to breastfeed my
Yeah.
kid? And by the time I got to my second kid, I was like, if I'm
You
at a
gotta eat.
restaurant and my baby needs to eat, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna feed my baby. I'm not getting up from the table to go somewhere to make other people comfortable. I will
Yeah.
wear, a cover just to be nice. Not that I have to, but
Mm-hmm.
that was a totally different mindset than the first one, where I was like, it was almost like not shame, but like you're supposed to cover up. You're supposed to. I mean, I was in my own house. People come over,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going upstairs to breastfeed. No, this is my house.
Right.
If I want to breastfeed in the living room while you here, then that's what I'm gonna do. But that definitely was a process to get there. But hopefully now that I think more people are, documenting their journeys, talking about it and stuff like that, that, moms are more comfortable sooner.
Yeah.
Because I think that does help, like with the overall process, when you're more comfortable and you have more support and it's more normalized.
Yeah. And like you don't have the anxiety of thinking, oh, I'm out and about. Where am I about to do this?
Yeah.
Right where you're sitting is
Yeah,
fine. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. I got like 3 more questions. I'm sorry. That's it.
Okay.
I got my 2 rap questions. I got more, but we skipping them. Okay. How did you manage to maintain a sense of self during your motherhood journey?
Ooh, a sense of self. Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think that I definitely lost that somewhere in the first go round.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at some point during postpartum with my first, I realized that like no one's coming to save me or like do things for me, or like the only way I'm going to maintain my sense of self and take care of myself is like I have to own that, and like I have to make time for that. And that means letting some things go. Like I can't do everything. I can't watch everything that everybody else does. My
Mm-hmm.
husband is not going to do the same task the exact way that I do the task, and it's okay. Um, it's okay to let someone else watch my child so I can go to the spa. I should not feel guilty about that. Like, you know, I had to learn to let things go, and that self care was not a bad thing. Like, I should not feel guilty for wanting to have a day off. Or now that I'm part time, right? I should not feel guilty if there's a Monday or Friday where I don't work, that I don't have something going on with the kids. There's no appointments going on. There's nothing at their school. So I have a free day to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I should not feel guilty if I decide on that free day, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing laundry. I'm not doing anything on that day. I'm going to lay down that day. I'm going to do whatever I want to do that day. And I should not feel guilty about that, because that little time, that one day is needed. I need that day, that time. So yeah, I think that was a process, learning that and accepting that and not feeling guilty about that. Yeah.
And what is one piece of advice that you would give to expecting mothers?
One piece of advice I would give, I would say, um, that's hard. I have two. One is, you're capable. Your body is capable. You have all the tools that you need to have a good birth experience. With that, sometimes things don't go the way that we want it to go, even though we prepare and do everything that we can do. But that second piece of advice I would say is to give yourself grace, because look at the bigger picture, right? Give yourself grace and look at the bigger picture. You know, you're safe. Your baby got here safely, and you know everybody's journey, it looks different. And I think giving yourself grace, and finding the beauty in your own journey and focusing on that beauty instead of, you know, the disappointment or the chaos or the trauma, can really, you know, help you look at it in a more positive way. And I think that's really, you know, helpful for you and your baby and the relationship with your baby and your relationship postpartum. So definitely give yourself grace and know that you have everything you need to have that birthing experience that you want to have.
Okay. And is there anything I did not ask or cover that you wanted to throw in there?
I don't think so. I just told
Okay.
you everything.
I like to ask. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Joy, for joining us and telling us your birthing stories. To the listeners, follow Joy on Instagram.
So my Instagram is joybells_ringing, and my mommy page is _Black Millennial Mom. But thank you for having me, and I think what you're doing is like really important, to, you know, give moms a voice and also just like share a breadth or a variety of experiences. And so there's not, at least like I said with my first, I just felt like there was just this one narrative of like bad experiences for moms, and like it just drove me into this craze of research and like prepping. And you know that was helpful, but too much of that is not helpful, you know, for you. And so I think what you're doing is great, kind of letting people share the variety of like their experiences, so that, you know, moms can see that there's lots of things that are possible and there's beauty
Right.
in all of these like different stories and experiences that you can have.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. So follow us on Instagram, or follow the page, follow the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow Joy on Instagram. Thank you for listening to this episode and have a great day.